Tonight, several developing stories as we come on the air. The life-threatening heat moving in. It could feel like 106 in New York City. Across the U.S., temperatures in the triple digits. Also tonight, President Trump, his new message on Iran, and what the president is now saying about his own director of national intelligence, saying late today she's wrong. And the mother who disappeared on Mother's Day, and the stunning turn tonight, the charges. First tonight, the life-threatening heat moving in, temperatures across the country soaring past 100, and the severe storm stretching from Michigan to New York tomorrow. Lee Goldberg standing by with the forecast. Also tonight, President Trump pushing back against his own director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, after she recently said there's no evidence Iran is building a nuclear weapon right now. The president late today saying she's wrong. Tonight, the arrest that made national headlines, the student activist arrested during the Trump administration's crackdown on pro-Palestinian demonstrators on campus. Tonight, a judge ruling he must be freed. This evening, a suspect now charged with the attempted kidnapping of a mayor. Police say they have recovered a taser, rope, and duct tape, climbing over an 8 to 10-foot wall to get to the mayor's home. It comes after those horrific shootings of lawmakers in Minnesota. Tonight, 5 years after she disappeared on Mother's Day, authorities have her husband under arrest tonight. He'd been released years earlier, and what he told ABC News at the time. Tonight, authorities on this sudden new turn and what led to his arrest. Tonight, we hear from the jurors now in the Karen Reed murder trial in Boston. Why they acquitted her, their reasoning. Outside New York City in the Hamptons, a reality TV star killed in an apparent hit and run. Police finding her unconscious along Montauk Highway. The disturbing scene at the ballpark, a Pirates pitcher taking a swing at a fan. What led to this moment? And it was 50 years ago tonight, Jaws became the summer blockbuster.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Tonight, Ginger Z takes us to Martha's Vineyard. Steven Spielberg on what was really happening with that mechanical shark. And the child actor in the water there revealing what was really going on during this scene.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening. We've made it to Friday, but it comes with extreme heat now moving in across much of this country. Thanks for being here tonight. More than 100 million Americans bracing now for life-threatening heat. Heat alerts stretching from Arizona all the way east to New York and up into New England. Temperatures in the 90s and 100s right through next Tuesday. The feel-like temperatures, when you factor in humidity as well, it could feel like 106 this weekend in New York City. More than 20 million Americans already under extreme heat warnings in the heartland. Chicago officials tonight urging residents to check on their neighbors. Severe storms also on the move from the Midwest to New York, bringing down trees and power lines in Philadelphia and all along the I-95 corridor. Chief Meteorologist Lee Goldberg of our New York station WABC is with us back to her tonight. And after weeks of rain, Lee, now the very intense heat.
And that's what makes it high impact, David. We're coming off a cool end to spring. It's going to be a shock to the system. We have heat alerts from the Gulf Coast to the Great Lakes into the Northeast. The heat's going to peak in the Midwest tomorrow. We're seeing potential record highs in Minneapolis, St. Louis. By Sunday, it's in Chicago, and then that heat gets into the Northeast. Look at D.C. and New York and Boston. By the time we get into Sunday and Monday, it feels like 108 in D.C., 107 in New York. We haven't hit 100 degrees in New York since 2012. It's going to be close. And then broiling in Boston, 103 on Tuesday. Please take care of yourself. Severe storms tonight from Bismarck to Duluth. David, those storms won't be in the Northeast till Wednesday or Thursday of next week to break the heat. We'll have to prepare for it all weekend. David?
Lee Goldberg with us here at a Friday night. Lee, thank you. Now to President Trump on Iran tonight. His new words late today. And tonight, the president now pushing back against his own director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. She recently said the intelligence community has no evidence that Iran is building a nuclear weapon right now. The president tonight saying she's wrong. ABC's Rachel Scott at the White House tonight.
Tonight, as President Trump decides whether the U.S. will take direct action on Iran, the president clearly showing today he does not agree with his director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, who said in recent weeks the intelligence community has no evidence Iran is building a nuclear weapon at this point.
What intelligence do you have that Iran is building a nuclear weapon? Your intelligence community has said they have no evidence that they are at this point.
Well, then my intelligence community is wrong. Who in the intelligence community said that?
Your director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard.
She's wrong.
In the days leading up to Israel's first strikes on Iran, the president's director of national intelligence, in a very rare move, posted a video of her own, appearing to warn against any escalation.
As we stand here today, closer to the brink of nuclear annihilation,
than ever before. Political elite and warmongers are carelessly fomenting fear and tensions between nuclear powers. Perhaps it's because they are confident that they will have access to nuclear shelters for themselves and for their families that regular people won't have access to. So it's up to us, the people, to speak up and demand an end to this madness. We must reject this path to nuclear war.
Sources tell ABC News the president scolded Gabbard and wished she used better judgment. We're told she has still participated in intelligence briefings in the Oval Office and is part of the president's national security team in the Situation Room. A source familiar saying in the room, Gabbard argued that Tehran is not close to building a bomb, reaffirming her Capitol Hill testimony just months ago.
IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon.
The president in recent days clearly frustrated that his director of national intelligence has not appeared to be in lockstep with him.
I don't care what she said. I think they were very close to having.
Tonight, President Trump doubling down his 2-week deadline for Iran before he decides on U.S. military action. Meanwhile, European leaders meeting today with Iran's foreign minister in Geneva, trying to come up with some sort of diplomatic solution. Our Tom Sufi Burge is there.
The talks here wrapping up. No major breakthroughs, but the Europeans pressing Iran to return to negotiations with the U.S.
The president tonight appearing to brush off the efforts by European leaders.
Iran doesn't want to speak to Europe. They want to speak to us. Europe is not going to be able to help in this.
And the president saying if the U.S. does take direct action, it will not include U.S. boots on the ground.
Well, I'm not going to talk about ground forces. The last thing you want to do is ground force.
David, the White House tonight telling us the president has full confidence in his national security team, calling Gabbard an important part of that. And David, Tulsi Gabbard responding herself tonight, suggesting there is no daylight between her and the president. David.
Rachel Scott there at the White House. Rachel, thank you. And with those talks underway in Geneva and President Trump giving Iran 2 weeks, tonight here the images coming in, Iranian missiles slamming Israel. Ian Pannell in Tel Aviv for us.
Tonight, Israel and Iran exchanging fierce new blows. Videos circulating online showing an Iranian missile slamming into Israel's port city of Haifa. First responders rushing to the scene, more than 30 people injured. And in the southern city of Beersheba, a missile blowing out a building lobby, causing destruction, a nearby daycare taking heavy damage. And Israel pounding Iran, hitting missile sites. A military official telling ABC News they've taken out about half of Iran's missile launchers. And Israel still bombing Iran's nuclear facilities. New satellite imagery showing a reactor in Iraq destroyed. At least 230 killed across Iran, according to the government, with little prospect of an early end to the strikes.
David, the American military now assisting some U.S. diplomats and families leave Israel. Meanwhile, the State Department apparently tracking unconfirmed reports that some Americans trying to leave Iran are being detained. David?
Ian Pannell will continue to follow that part of the story for sure. Thank you. Back here in the U.S. tonight, the suspect is now charged in that attempted kidnapping of the mayor of Memphis. They say he climbed over an 8 to 10-foot wall to get to the mayor's front door. They've recovered a taser, rope, and duct tape. And it comes after those horrific shootings of lawmakers in Minnesota, with that suspected killer showing up at their front doors. Here's Pierre Thomas tonight.
Tonight, prosecutors in Tennessee charging this 25-year-old man with trying to kidnap the mayor of Memphis, Paul Young. The latest in what authorities say is a surge in targeted attacks on politicians.
You may not contact Paul Young, the alleged victim in this case. You may not contact him directly, indirectly, or be anywhere he's likely to be.
Police claim that Trenton Abston climbed over the 8 to 10-foot wall in Mayor Young's neighborhood Sunday night and went directly to the mayor's home, knocking on the door. The mayor not answering after he looked at the Ring doorbell video and observed an unknown male. Prosecutors claimed that Abston had a taser in his pocket and planned to confront Paul Young about crime in the city. And authorities say they later found that taser, rope, and duct tape in the suspect's vehicle. Mayor Young posting, "In today's climate, especially after the tragic events in Minnesota and the threats my wife and I often received online, None of us can be too careful. And U.S. Congressman Max Miller from Ohio says he too was targeted this week while driving on a highway.
Some unhinged, deranged man decided to lay on his horn and run me off the road when he couldn't get my attention to show me a Palestinian flag. Not to mention death to Israel, death to me, that he wanted to kill me and my family.
Tonight, police arresting 36-year-old Ferris Hamden for allegedly threatening Miller and his family, saying he made anti-Semitic slurs against Miller, who is Jewish. These incidents on the heels of those horrific shootings in Minnesota that left former State House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark dead. Authorities say the alleged killer disguising himself as police, wearing a hyper-realistic latex mask. Senator John Hoffman and his wife Yvette ambushed at their front door. Trying to protect his family, they say the senator lunged at the gunman. Each of them shot at least 8 times. Their daughter, Hope, then rushed to shut the door and called 911. The Hoffman saying, quote, "Without Hope, we wouldn't be here right now."
David, the Hoffman family grateful that Hope saved their lives. And in response to this toxic and increasingly dangerous political environment, congressional leaders holding urgent meetings this week to discuss ways to improve security. David?
And to try to bring the temperature down across this country. Pierre Thomas, thank you, Pierre. There's breaking news tonight after that arrest of a demonstrator, the Columbia graduate student arrested in front of his pregnant wife as the Trump administration cracked down on pro-Palestinian demonstrators on campus. Well, tonight, a judge now ruling that he must be released months after his arrest. Here's Aaron Katersky.
Okay, let's not.
It was the arrest at Columbia University in front of his pregnant wife that made national headlines.
And he's not resisting.
And tonight, after more than 3 months in federal custody, Columbia graduate and green card holder Mahmoud Khalil walking out of an immigration jail in Louisiana.
My priority now is to get to my beautiful wife and precious son. Although justice prevailed, but it's long, very long overdue, and this shouldn't have taken 3 months.
A federal judge granting Khalil's release on bail, ruling the Trump administration was punishing him over his pro-Palestinian speech. Of course, the judge said that would be unconstitutional. The judge also rejecting the government's argument that Khalil represented a flight risk. The administration accused Khalil of fomenting anti-Semitism during demonstrations on the Columbia campus last year, which his lawyers denied. Tonight, Noor Abdullah, who gave birth to a son, Dean, in April, saying we can finally breathe a sigh of relief and know that Mahmoud is on his way home.
Khalil's ordeal is not over, David. The government is still determined to kick him out of the country, something he can now try to fight while home with his wife and son after 105 days in detention. David?
Aaron Katersky on this tonight. Aaron, thank you. Tonight, hear the new turn 5 years after a Colorado mother disappeared on Mother's Day. Authorities have arrested her husband. He'd been released years earlier, and what he told ABC News at the time. Tonight, authorities on this sudden new turn and what's led to the arrest this time. Here's Mola Lengi.
5 years after Colorado mother Suzanne Morphew vanished during a bike ride near her home on Mother's Day, tonight, the stunning arrest. A grand jury indicting her husband, Barry, on charges of murder. When Suzanne first went missing, her husband pleaded for her return in this video.
No questions asked. However much they want, I will do whatever it takes to get you back. Honey, I love you, and I want you back so bad.
A year later, Barry Morphew was arrested and charged with her murder. But just days before trial, the charges were dropped. Morphew's daughters, Macy and Mallory, standing by their father through it all, sitting down for an interview with ABC News.
We just know our dad better than anyone else. And we know he was not involved in our mom's disappearance.
And Barry later asked if he was involved.
Absolutely not. It's very hurtful to lose your reputation and your integrity.
Suzanne Morphew's remains were found in a shallow grave. Police say an autopsy found traces of sedatives and tranquilizers. According to the new indictment, police found a dart or tranquilizer rifle, along with a needle cap in the dryer in the home. Investigators say at the time of the murder, Suzanne had been having a secret affair and discussed plans to divorce Barry Morphew with her close friend.
Well, David, Barry Morphew maintaining his innocence. Tonight, he's in custody in Arizona, where he was arrested on the murder charge. Prosecutors now seeking his extradition back here to Colorado, David.
Mola Lengi, our thanks to you. We are also hearing tonight from the jurors who acquitted Karen Reed of murdering her Boston police officer boyfriend. Why they found her not guilty, their reasoning right here tonight. Here's Stephanie Ramos.
Is the defendant not guilty or guilty?
Tonight, after Karen Reed was acquitted in the killing of her police officer boyfriend, John O'Keefe, jurors describing how they reached that decision.
I just realized there was too many holes that we couldn't fill, and there's nothing that put her on the scene, in our opinion, besides just drop John O'Keefe off.
Our affiliate WCVB speaking to juror number 11, Paula Prado, a lawyer from Brazil, who says she initially thought Reed may be guilty of manslaughter, but changed her mind over the course of the trial. Prosecutors in Massachusetts accused Reed of hitting O'Keefe with her vehicle after a night of drinking, leaving him for dead during a snowstorm in 2022. Another juror telling ABC News she does not believe Reed ever struck her boyfriend with the car, pointing to perceived issues with law enforcement's investigation.
A collision did not occur. I can't assess the motive to this sloppy police investigation.
And while that Brazilian attorney says she stands by the jury's decision, she felt badly for the officer's family when the verdict was read in court.
Great for Karen Reed, but horrible for the family. He seemed to be a very nice guy, so I feel bad for them. And I really want them to get justice for John O'Keefe for real.
While Reed was acquitted of those second-degree murder and manslaughter charges, she was found guilty of operating a vehicle under the influence and sentenced to 1-year probation. David.
Stephanie Ramos with us tonight. Steph, thank you. When we come back here, the breaking headline, there's been an outage at this hour involving air traffic controllers, now apparently on backup systems. Where this is playing out in a moment. And outside New York City in the Hamptons, a reality TV star from a popular real estate show killed in an apparent hit and run, found unconscious along Montauk Highway. What police are saying in a moment here. Tonight, the FAA is reporting a telecommunications outage affecting the air traffic control center in Jacksonville, Florida. The FAA says the facility lost radar, frequencies, and automation equipment when a fiber optic line was cut. Backup systems have now kicked in. The outage did not cause any disruptions to Jacksonville Airport. The center is now operating on what's called alert status. Tonight, police on New York's Long Island are searching for a suspected hit-and-run driver wanted in the death of a reality TV star in the Hamptons. Authorities say Sara Burack was found unconscious near a restaurant along Montauk Highway. She later died at the hospital. A prominent real estate agent, she appeared in the popular streaming series $1 Million Beach House. When we come back here tonight, the Major League pitcher taking a swing at a fan, the alarming moment, and you'll see it, and what led to it, and what came out 50 years ago tonight, and what we never knew about that mechanical shark. To the index, a disturbing scene at the ballpark. Pirates pitcher Dennis Santana pointed out a fan heckling him in the bullpen during a game against the Tigers. Police officer at his side there, Santana then taking a swing at the fan, his teammates pulling him away. The fan was ejected, and tonight we've learned the pitcher has now been suspended for 4 games. When we come back here, it was 50 years ago tonight. Jaws came out. Ginger Z takes us to Martha's Vineyard tonight, what Steven Spielberg has revealed all these years later. Finally tonight, it was 50 years ago tonight, Jaws premiered. That's director Steven Spielberg. What he reveals tonight about that mechanical shark. Ginger Z on Martha's Vineyard.
Where are we going?
Swimming! With 2 notes. And 1 shark. Steven Spielberg's Jaws changed movies forever. The film released 50 years ago, becoming an instant blockbuster. But the making of the movie was over budget and 100 days behind schedule.
I was terrified I was going to be fired.
Nat Geo's new documentary, Jaws at 50, takes a deep dive into the production, plagued by issues with that mechanical shark.
There was nothing fun about making Jaws. It was a very, very hard thing to go out on the real ocean, be knocked around by the waves, by the currents.
One more time.
And then on top of all that, 80% of the time the shark didn't work.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Shark! The shark! Jaws was shot right here on Martha's Vineyard between May and October of 1974. And this is the Jaws Bridge, one of the most famous spots from the film. People still come to visit today. The cast and crew of Jaws was right here in picturesque Edgartown as they transformed it into the beachside resort town of Amity. Many of the actors in the movie, islanders, lifelong residents of Martha's Vineyard, like Jeffrey Voorhees, whose character, Alex Kinter, was one of the shark's victims.
When you see me go up and down, that's 2 guys lifting me in and out of the water, then pull you on and give you air.
And Jonathan Searle, who appeared alongside his brother in this memorable moment.
You made me do it. You don't even do it.
So in the film, you are pulling a hoax, or your character is, but now you in real life are the chief of police.
Can you believe that? I'm still amazed at the following that the movie has produced, and that 50 years later people are still so interested. Who knew when I was sitting with a 26-year-old gentleman that would be Steven Spielberg?
The documentary Jaws at 50 next month on Nat Geo and Disney+. Good night.
ABC's David Muir, the most watched newscast in America. More Americans watch World News Tonight with David Muir than any other newscast.